sir.
All right, so we trans. Both from forwarding in from the chat, as well as as of today, AC mission 105.8%. Trending toward that 40.6 mission. It never stops, you know, track. Newfield mission 117% of glide slope. Who would have thought a year ago? RC mission, so NATTAR, 109.9% of mission. But what I will say is we have fully identified the NATTAR mission for 2025, and all contracts are being placed in 2026. So that's just incredible work. NSO, we're at 96.2% of glide slope. So we've been behind the whole year. We're closer than we've ever been. We're minus 59. We had been living in the 3 digits for a while, low 3 digits, but for a while. So we're in a better place. Last 2 months have been stellar on NSO. You need about 200 a month to stay on glide slope. We need more like 20 to 30 to close glide slope at a reasonable pace. We've been in the 240s to 250s for the last couple of months, so that's really great work. Prior service is actually ahead of glide slope at 102%, so that's really great work there. And our enlisted shipping mission remains ahead of glide slope. Even as we come out of T2 into T3, we're in really good position. Another indicator of recovery is we're about 2 weeks away from placing our 40,600th future sailor into FY25. So I think somewhere between June 13th and June 17th, you'll see some public affairs outbound about identifying the full mission, right? We're going to keep going. Obviously, the rest of the year is about building depth. And for us right now is about growing that shipping because we have the audacious target of 44,000 people to ship this year. And we're on pace to do that. But I think it's a real testament to the organization that here we are in June talking about identifying the full mission that we were assigned. This has been years since we've been in a position like this. And so I'm really proud of the organization for getting us there. So for NTAGs that remain in the blue, 25 of 26 NTAGs remain in the blue, and 2 of 5 RTAGs remain in the blue from FY24. And then the one monthly thing, the bell check. So meeting the requirements of the bell check for our NTAGs, that's New Orleans, Ohio River Valley, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Great Lakes, Northern Plains, Pacific Northwest, Phoenix, Rocky Mountain, and San Antonio. So really great work there. And then for RTAGs that made the bell check for the month: Northwest, Southwest, Central, and Southeast. So that's really, really great work. And I am excited about continuing the recruiting tradition of being able to ring the bell at the end of the month. Nationally, we haven't rung the bell at headquarters so far this fiscal year because we've been behind on NSO the whole year. I think we're going to ring the bell this month at headquarters. And that's meeting the key, AC, Nuke Field, NATTAR, and NSO, as well as our shipping mission. So I think we're on track there. I might be a little audacious in saying that, but I think in June we're going to ring the bell. Okay, so NSO has been a real focus. I'll just give you some perspective on where we are on that. Based on the incentives related to a flag letter of commendation, a coin, a patch, a belt buckle for the 1, 2, 3, or 4 contracts. We have 29 recruiters have earned a coin. 6 recruiters have earned the patch, which are in now, finally. And those will are in the mail if they're not already there. And then 2 recruiters have earned the belt buckle, the four NSO contracts. Interestingly, they're both from the same NTAG, Great Lakes. So a little internal competition going on there, I think. So I'll read a few of the names. I'll read the names for those that have earned 3. So there are 6 that have earned a patch. That's FC2 Williams from NTAG Jacksonville, MM1 Kate from NTAG Northern Plains, 81 Rankin from NTAG Mid-America, GM1 Pelletier, NTAG Mid-America, so internal competition there probably. And then the remaining 2 also earned the belt buckle, both from Great Lakes. HT1 Ramagas and FC2 Maxwell. So bravo Zulu to all of you for incredible work there. All right, this is the part of the all hands call where I'm trying to make sure everybody's aligned on the types of changes that have been in the works. I signed out. I signed out the goals for FY26 at the end of April. So those are all at the NTAG level, what the goal is for FY26. And I subsequently signed out the rollover policy for what we're going to do with overage as you cross the fiscal year line. So this fiscal year, as we transition from 25 to 26, for overall in each of the categories, whatever you're ahead will count as where you are in the FY25 process. And I know we talked about that in the something like that in the transition from 24 to 25. What changed, what drove some of the aggressive, you got to not just, you have to stay parallel to the line at least, is the addition of the 3,400 shipping that we had to do, going from 40.6 to 44K as the target. So in order to achieve that, we had to continue to grow. I expect a one and done, this is the goal, with the only thing that would happen to it would be to reduce it. But I expect the goal to be audacious and high. We're expecting a 45K shipping goal for FY26. But rest assured, Recruiting Nation is on track to produce something on the order of 48,000 contracts this year. So we're operating in the universe. We're not looking for another gear shift. This is what you're doing today is what will continue. At the rate we were recruiting in the second half of 24, if you double that 6-month period, it would have been 49K. So that pace is achievable with the recruiting force we have today. All right. I signed out another authorization that delegated POSDAT waiver authority to the NTAG COs because it was another one of those non-decision decisions that came to my level because we were saying yes in just about every case. Let's see. I signed out a guidance based on the back and forth in the courts for transgender applicants, guidance aligned with what the Supreme Court decision that allowed the administration to continue their our policy, to not assess transgender individuals, and I provided some guidance on that. We will treat everyone with dignity and respect. However, we're not processing transgender candidates at this time, in accordance with policy. I signed out, hopefully you all saw this because I texted it out, the awards for non-Navy personnel. So this is the ability to, and to have some structure to it. So a certain number of referrals that turn into contracts, there's a flock, there's a NAM, there's a COM in there. It's really up to them and their service whether they get credit for it, but I'll do my part, right? And allow you to identify those that are helping you so that we can continue to encourage that behavior, right? Because there are folks that turn out to not be the right fit for another service, they're a right fit for us, or in the case of the Marines, hand tattoos. We're all in, hold fast. We'll take them. Let's see. There's an incentive. This is really more applicable to the classifiers, but one of the things that's happened over the course of the year as we've been, racing to fill every slot, every shipping slot in T2 in particular that we possibly could to ensure that we didn't fall behind for T3 such that we would have to exceed the capacity of boot camp. One of the consequences of that, when it's really a buyer's market, is we have some rates that are behind, pretty significantly behind. Airman Pact is one in particular. The Pact ratings in general, flight deck rates, CSs, bosun's mates, master at arms, right? So I've put in place some incentives to provide an advancement to either E2 or E3, depending on what they were heading to boot camp with, in order to select those rates, right? So rather than using a shipping bonus, this is something that actually pays out. Like when you all talk to candidates about this as an option, the payout of being an E3 instead of an E2 or E2 instead of an E1 as you start boot camp, there's a long-term impact to that because you put yourself in not only do you get paid more month by month, but you put yourself in a position for early advancement to E4 sooner, which again then pays off. So it's like compounding interest. And the cool thing is it's other people's money, right? Because it's not my bonus budget. But okay, I changed the religious accommodation request process. That doesn't mean it's going to be immensely smoother, but it will take some of the time out of it because I know it's frustrating when one of your candidates requests a religious accommodation that it takes too long. So we cut a chunk of the process out so it goes straight from your NTAG CO to N13 up in DC. Let's see. And then I have one pending that I'm working on right now. Let me reel that one back. I did sign out a change to how we process single parent or sailor with one parent where the other parent abandoned the family, right? There used to be a whole bunch of legal mumbo jumbo that had to happen. We've turned it into a notarized statement this is my child and the other parent is gone. And I will tell you that came out of an interaction that I had at a recruiting station visit. A question got asked, hey, why is it this way? I said, I don't know, right? Some of that's reflective of the fact that I don't day-to-day, I'm not in the trench with you all doing that digging to identify it. So it's really helpful. The CO suggestion box stuff is super helpful. That generates change. But this one came in, and my view of it was when I looked into it, why do I care at all what somebody that abandoned their family thinks, right? The risk is essentially zero because we're actually doing good by the child, by the future sailor, and somebody with the character to abandon their family don't care, right? And so that's why we changed it. In a similar vein, I'm working through, sometime soon, I will put out, probably via text, and a signed memorandum. For those families that are not married, I know that's a challenge, right? Like, so 2 parents, child, one of the parents is trying to join. We have another legal hoop to get through for the recruiters. I'm working on simplifying that down, in particular for the father, right? So the fact of the matter is the legal standing of the mother is different than the legal standing of the father, the assumed legal standing. It varies state by state, but generally the mother is with birth certificate in hand is enough. Father, that's not true. So where I'm trying to get is for you as the recruiter, for the father in that situation would be a notarized statement that I acknowledge this is my family, and I also acknowledge that in order to get dependent BAH, I'm going to have to produce legal documents when I'm at boot camp. That allows you to process the person and then continue to mentor them so that they work on that before they ship, right? I think that will speed things up and remove from you the burden of the friction of getting that legal stuff done before we contract them. So that's in the works. Let's see. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about reserve recruiting for a moment. Super proud of the work that NRRC has done. We have goals in prior service recruiting that are higher than they've been since the early 2000s. And the production rate is amazing. We're on glide slope right now, and those R tags, those 5 R tags, are doing amazing work. For those that don't know, there's really kind of 2 ways that we bring prior service enlisted in. It's the broken service, meaning we go out, the NRRC or the R tag recruiter is going out canvassing to find people that used to serve and have an opportunity to serve. And then there's the AC to RC, the sailor that's transitioning out. We've changed the process of how that AC to RC thing works. It used to be kind of all managed from BUPERS, so kind of like an automated process. But what that resulted in is a very small percentage of people getting out, even really being aware of the benefits of reserve service. We've shifted it so that BUPERS continues to do the processing, but our RTAG recruiters are doing the human-to-human engagement, right? Because that's what really matters in recruiting. On the officer side, we've been doing that for several years. We have a result of 90% of the officers getting out of the Navy have a human-to-human contact with a recruiter, and 50% of those join the reserves. If we could do that on the enlisted side, we wouldn't be looking for broken service, except for specific rates, probably. We just need to get, there's so much potential here. It gives me great hope on the numbers. So on glide slope, we have about 2,000 prior enlisted sailors to recruit between now and the end of the year, so that's about 500 a month for the 4 remaining months. Within the capability of the organization, especially in line with the way that we're engaging AC to RC. I think that is the key. And I am engaged for the NRRC team with with the Chief of the Navy Reserve on the officer goal. So reserve officers are recruited either off the street to be a new officer. There's a few designators we can do that with, or AC to RC. Like, we don't recruit reserve pilots from the street and send them to flight school. We only make reserve pilots from people that were active component pilots and already have the warfare designator. The challenge is that the way the goal was done, the goal is higher in 17 designators than, well, let me reel that one back. In several designators, the goal is above the number we know are getting out. So that makes it impossible. So we're working on that. But I just want the RTAG sailors out there, the RTAG recruiters, to hear from me that I am paying attention to everything that you're doing. I appreciate it, and I'm fighting hard to get to a place where all winning is within our capability. Going after a goal that's not achievable doesn't help anyone. General officer. So do I have anyone that's been an officer recruiter in the room? One. I got one. All right. Welcome. Best position we've been in years. NUPOC, so the Nuclear Power Officer Candidate Program, completely full for FY25, has been so for weeks. First time since 2019. So pretty impressive work. GenOff, so the general officer, we're ahead of we're over shipping, so we will be over 100%. I think that's the first time in many years for that. Strangely, I had to kind of arm wrestle with the various communities to allow us to send them more officers than they asked for, even though they're behind overall. Basically so we could fill in all of the slots at OCS. So that's really good. For the NTAGs, though, what I need out of them right now is a focus on Medical Service Corps and Nurse Corps. We've pulled doctors and dentists out of the NTAGs, the direct accession doctors and dentists. The NTAGs have the academic or the student programs, and they have direct accession for Medical Service Corps and nurse. We need to focus our officer recruiting on those, Medical Service Corps and Nurse Corps. And Medical Service Corps is a true bag of cats, right? Like, it's everything from, I think, physical therapy to entomology, right? Bug doctors, right? Like, that's strange. Why do we recruit bug doctors? I don't know, but we got to get 4, I think, this year. If you know a bug doctor, let me know. Great place to recruit bug doctors is Hawaii, I hear, because there's a lot of bugs. Having lived there 3 times, there's a lot of bugs. Anyway, and the collegiate mission for medical, super important. We're making great progress, but that's really where the NTAG officer recruiters need to focus right now, while not abandoning the work toward 26, because as I said, the bulk of our officers are booked for the FY25, and we're working into 26. Some designators are either full or nearly full for 26. That's how good this is going. But there's always the eaches. So Medical Corps, Dental Corps, DA, which we pulled up to headquarters, is being run by the hometown medical recruiters, and we've done some outsourcing there. That's going pretty well, but continues to be a challenge, right? The goal for doctors went from 7 to 131. That's a slight increase. We got 1 last year, 1 Medical Corps direct accession last year through our super highly efficient machine. So far, we've commissioned 3 doctors, 1 dentist, with 17 physicians, 17 doctors and 3 dentists that are approved, and we're just working on the commissioning process. So that's 20 docs and 4 dentists. Not the right order of magnitude, but certainly significantly better than last year. And there's about 120 in the pipeline, this conveyor belt that's complicated to bring a doctor in with real potential to get across the line. But time is running short because we need to commission them in 25. In order to do that, I got to get them through the board by about mid-August to ensure we have enough time to get through scrolling, which I've been in lots of jobs. I still don't really know what scrolling is, but it's a thing. It's got to get done so that people can get hired. Let's see. So if I boil it down to priorities, on the enlisted side, kind of two key priorities. For the recruiters, really getting after that Navy Special Operations mission. For the classifiers, our bottom 10 or so ratings. I mentioned it before. We have some that we're behind on. The fleet is really feeling it on the aircraft carriers, not having enough airman packs, not having enough ABs. And so those are on the enlisted side. On the officer side, for the NTAGs, I just mentioned it, Medical Service Corps and Nurse Corps DA. And then for headquarters, Recruiting Nation writ large, it's this Medical Dental Corps DA. They gave us the goal and then said, yeah, we know it's impossible. Well, I just want to go ahead and do the impossible. So we're just going to keep working on it. DEP, talk a little bit about Delayed Entry Program. It's one of the benefits of the incredible work that all of you have done is we actually have a Delayed Entry Program. And it's grown over the year, even though we've been shipping at a mad pace. The thing for me is to really develop that focus on building connectedness within that Delayed Entry Program. Each of you should understand that every one of those kids that we have contracted that walks away, that's in a trite, is 100 or more phone calls for that recruiter, right, to get that back. It's a lot of work. So when you're trying to balance what am I going to do here, putting some work into that future sailor feeling like they're more part of the team in whatever way works, human-to-human contact, bringing them into the station, using them to help with things that they are capable of helping with. All of that, I would argue, is probably less work than getting another one of them to replace them. And so that focus needs to continue. We did publish the DEP play card, and I realize that that is checklist kind of oriented, but it's really meant to be a level set across the entire Recruiting Nation about not only the things that are required out of the RLAM, but the things that other NTAGs, best practices from those NTAGs that they had used. We are continuing to develop the training products to help you show what right looks like for managing the Delayed Entry Program sailors, future sailors. So I'll just leave it at that. I will say the other benefit besides reducing attrition, which effective DEP management is directly tied to, is improving referrals and referral contracts. The conversion rate for referrals is significantly higher than the conversion rate for recruiter-generated leads. It's higher than national leads, the marketing and advertising leads, which themselves are higher conversion rate than recruiter-generated leads. So just for some statistics, for referrals nationally, we've had 900 new contracts from the referrals that come out of DEP. The conversion rate, QI to contract, has been 55% nationally. So that's pretty good. But if you go further back up the funnel, the conversion rate from contact to actually showing up for an appointment is really high, because the person you're working with that gave you the referral handed trust to that person so that when you call, they're not as skeptical, if you will, right? So right now we're averaging about 300 RD contracts a month. So it's been accelerating. And that's a 50% increase over the last 6 months. So bravo Zulu to the team. You're taking it on board. But for the line recruiter, this is really about working smarter, not harder, right? You should take on board referrals convert at a higher rate, meaning less phone calls, fewer school visits, right? More propensity out of that person you're talking to. That's why it's important. To a lesser degree, that's true of leads that come from national marketing and advertising, and your own as well. But national marketing and advertising is kind of where I live. Those leads convert at a higher rate. Smarter, not harder. Okay, talked about that. All right. I'm going to stop there and see what questions exist. Where are we? We're about half-ish. That's pretty good for me. All right, what questions are out there? Somebody tracking from?
I got some from the chat, sir. There was someone who was asking about the issue that was asked about yesterday in Nashville with NSO contracts getting general enlistment waivers and us waiving them with a special duty waiver and them going to RTC and getting disqualified from the ring.
Yeah.
So they were just wondering.
Bane of my existence. Yeah, I got it. Speaking of Nashville, just so that if you can't see it on camera, I got the Division III patch on. They gave me that yesterday, or when was it? Yeah, yesterday, for a visit that I did there to the moon. So a couple of, you may see the red on there, a couple of Hello Kitty ribbons on there, so just so everybody knows. Anybody from Nashville in here, in the room, NTAG Nashville? All right, somebody's online probably. All right, answering the question. So there's 2 levels of waiver. There's general duty that I have authority over. I hit the mic. That I have authority over. And there's special duty waivers that are adjudicated by an organization that works at ViewMed. We have worked with them to reduce the times that what just got asked happens, where I waive something and they're like, no. The level of review is done with a focus on likelihood of success long-term within that specialty. And the special duty waivers are for NSO, nuke, non-nuke subs. I think that's it. And the conservatism of that review is different than my own. But we have worked with them so that we do not routinely, intentionally waive something that we know we're going to get to, that we know will be a no at special duty. That said, I am working to push the system a little bit on thinking through, especially mental health. Because the hardest thing these young people will do is the NSO training pipeline that they're going to be a part of. If we're worried about their mental health, that ought to demonstrate whether it's a real problem, right? We're working on that to try to get there. So sometimes we're going to end up with cases where the special duty waiver authority says not willing to take that chance. I realize I want to minimize that. I understand it's disappointing to the individual. It's also an impact on recruiter time because we spend a lot of time prepping those kids to pass the PST, to get them ready and groom them to go, right? Working hard to minimize that. Unfortunately, when humans are involved, it's not perfect. Go ahead.
Sir, there was another question I know that you've discussed previously a lot and could update on station Wi-Fi speed.
Yeah, not good enough.
Yes, sir.
It is not good enough. I will say a couple things about speed. One of the constraints on speed is the VPN. A solution for the VPN is Nautilus Virtual Desktop. There is a time investment in getting that established on your computer, but the feedback that I've gotten from those that have gone through the process is that it is significantly faster than the VPN. I encourage the NTAGs to develop a system that puts Nautilus Virtual Desktop on laptops and then just cycles them out so that you don't have to sit there as a recruiter for 3 hours downloading it and getting it set up. That's one piece. The other piece is just straight up Wi-Fi speed. I'm working toward automatically sensing Wi-Fi speed at all the stations. We're not there yet. We are at a place where we have established a station-by-station tracker that my N6 is working with the NTAGs to have self-reporting of Wi-Fi speed, because I need to know what it is, what it really is, and all of us can check Wi-Fi speed wherever we are. There's our phones do it. There's apps for it, whatever, that can tell you what the download and upload speed is of the Wi-Fi, so that we can look at what is it relative to what we expect it to be, and I can take action, right? Right now, I know it's too slow, but I need some numbers. I need that process to happen so that I can launch into either the Wi-Fi provider isn't giving us what we need, or we didn't pay for enough speed, right? In either of those cases, I need to take some action. I am sensitive to it because I know it impacts your day-to-day life. We're working on it.
Sir, and then someone addressed one of the officer recruiters, an OCS prep guide, or kind of like guide that they give them when they are entering into like an officer recruiting contract, is outdated and includes DEI. So they're wondering when we can get an updated version.
Good question.
Yes.
All right. So one of my department heads needs to probably not answer that.
Okay.
I take that on board. We need to update the officer guide. That's probably someone in my N9 that working with the N3 to get after that. So let's just make sure we're tracking that. Okay, good question. If in the room, yeah. I'm going to get closer so Recruiting Nation might be able to hear off my mic.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you? We're too close, I know.
We are a bit close. I have a question in reference to recruiters that fall under billet-based advancement. Is there going to be something that comes down the pipeline for us? Because it kind of adds a stressor of like, are you going to take that break for shore duty? Or are we going to let our career stay at a standstill to be on shore duty?
Yeah, okay, great question. So billet-based advancement, you pass the rating knowledge exam, you meet the time requirements, I want to advance, I got to go to a different job to advance. The way that we're getting after that for BBA rates in recruiting, and this is also true of RDCs, not that anyone here cares about that, but is a stated exception in the BBA policy that allows, this is the only shore command outside of RTC that can do command advanced position. Basically, if there is a first class billet, a FAC-G billet, doesn't have to be in your rate, at your command, the command can command advance you. That's done in conjunction with the M&A cycle. So what's that, 6 times a year? There's a window to do command advance to position. But I think if we zoom out a little bit, I mean, that's the specific answer for you, meaning, yes, there is a path for advancement. Where's
right here.
CMC? Did we get the answer back on MAP, like what rates? Like, remember they kind of came back and said all rates?
Correct. I haven't got an answer back
Yeah.
yet.
So there's also MAP, but MAP, BBA rates are not eligible for MAP normally. We're clarifying because we've just got the approval back for the MAP quotas, the extra MAP quotas for recruiting. And it had words in it that would imply that that rating, it was not limited to the non-BBA ratings. I'm trying to clarify that right now. But fundamentally, here's the strategy. And ultimately, the entire Navy will be billet-based advancement writ large. So if you're a non-BBA rate today and you think it's never coming, it's coming. And the reason for that, just to go back in history just a little bit, is we have ratings. The first 2 that went into this were DC and ABE. And those ratings were, at the time that we created it, were in the like 98, 99% manned as a rating, 80% manned at sea. So how do we incentivize people into the right places through the advancement system, right? That doesn't necessarily take into account recruiting, right? And all the school that you got to go through and the special skills, right, that are very different than anything else being done in the Navy. I can't afford to lose you. So when they were creating the updated BBA policy, they put those words in that allow us to command advance you. If you're a non-BBA rate, then MAP should apply. And we've gotten, last year we had a total of 64 MAP quotas for all of Navy recruiting. We got that same number again this year. Based on the proportional assignment, I think there was one for Navy recruiting for all, all sailors in Navy recruiting. So those extra that CMC helped lead the way with will provide that opportunity. So my vision is, while we have a divide, that the command advance to position will be used wherever possible to fill up the advanced ranks, and then MAP would follow because it doesn't require a billet to advance, right? And that will maximize the number of people. It will continue to incentivize people to want to come to recruiting because this is the only place that you can advance and stay on shore duty in place, as opposed to having to take a billet to go back to sea. Does that help? It doesn't make you feel good today, probably, but it is the path, though. It's not a zero, right? And in any case, if a command has a sailor that they believe should be command advanced or mapped, there is a process of exception to policy that we can look at. That's how we've advanced people that were specifically prohibited in the policy from advancing. So, yeah.
Good morning, sir. Chief Jenkins, how you doing today?
Good.
So what about?
I'm gonna get closer. Oh wait, we got you. You can take it to him. This is just so that people out in the
Got you, sir.
in the world can hear.
So what about the ones like myself who was selected as senior chief for senior enlisted marketplace? So right now I'm currently in Enroll, but I'm about to head out to my NTAG in a couple of weeks. Will I still have the opportunity to put on senior chief?
Yeah. So that's a hard one. Gosh, why do we have to have? That's a good one. Right now, I don't have a clear path for that. The path that the policy would provide is there's a 2-year window to negotiate orders to your senior chief job, meaning you can go off, do this job, but you're wearing E7, and then up to the end of the second year, you can negotiate for orders, and it could be as much as 3 years then, because you take orders that are a year out. As far as advancing in place, I don't have a process for that right now, but I certainly am sensitive to it, and we'll take that back to N13 to see what we can do, right? Because we need to continue to encourage people to come to recruiting and not see it as a a constraint on advancement. Let me ask CMC if you have any. You heard the question, right?
I did, and right now, really for senior chief and master chief, no. ARA is available this year. However, we do not have any senior chief or master chief billets outside of CRF within Navy.
ARA, say that. What does that mean?
That advancement realignment. They asked me what it stands
Oh,
for.
this is I'm a chief doing sitting in a senior chief billet. I can be and I'm screened. I can be
And
advanced.
there's a billet available to advance you.
Yeah. If there's a billet available, we can do it inside recruiting. You're a tough case. So let us keep working on it. The system has gotten less restrictive over time. So let me make the case on why recruiting. I need to understand a little bit more about how many of you there are and kind of what the impact is. But for you personally, the number doesn't matter. You're screened and you're stuck. I get it. right? So let me take that one on. Yep. What else? We got stuff online.
This one NCR might be able to help you with. Why is the supplementary tab in Salesforce
Ooh.
required to be done for NIT? It seems redundant and makes double work. We have to put all the information that's in the supplementary tab in the required forms anyways, so why double work?
Yeah, that one's for you.
So whoever asked the question, send me a proposal on it, because a lot of the stuff that's in the supplementary info right now, there's no other place to upload it, right? So we need to see that as far as, like, I'm assuming they're saying the overlays and stuff like that where you can actually see them. So if you have a proposal or specifics on it, just please send me an email and I'll look into it.
Yeah, wherever we can reduce redundancy, that would be great.
And
All right.
one more, sir. For the recent DGM signed out regarding getting awards to other recruiters and other services, is there a limit on how far they can backdate those awards?
Yeah, I didn't address retroactive. I would just say if you've got the documentation of what happened, ask. Send it in and ask. What I'm not looking for is going back, 8 years, and I'm sure that's not what they're asking for, or creating a whole bunch of admin here. But if there are cases where somebody's done right by you, and there's still a connection there, send it in and ask. I didn't address retroactive, but I didn't prohibit it either. I really wasn't thinking about it that way, but I get that life continues, and there's probably somebody that, just 6 months ago did good things.
Sir, with certain NTAGs showing success with Nuke Scouts, can we implement this at every NTAG?
Nuke Scouts. Yeah, so what I will say is I don't really want to be in the business of dictating exactly how an NTAG CO organizes the recruiting force in the field. I gave some specific direction in how the C2 works for the leadership of the NTAG, but we intentionally, when we pulled back from the flattening of the organization, which was, I was not pleased that it was all like verbal. So we were starting to try to write it down, and it just became obvious to me that I didn't want to be in the business of that. So I think that each NTAG CO has the authority to, if you want to use Nuke Scouts, great. If you don't. But recognize you're still accountable for the mission. And the more people that you have that are not, prospecting, building trust-based relationships, and closing, the harder it is on the ones that are. And so you just got to think through that, right? And we've seen that in NSO, right? So Philadelphia has done great things with NSO. Their mantra is every recruiter is an NSO scout. That's how they do it. They have an NSO team that does the PSTs and works people out and builds them up. And there are other NTAGs that where the NSO scout, they have scouts, but they're collaterally, on the bag recruiter, right? And there are some that have just straight up like what you might traditionally think of as a scout. I would say generally the specialization thing to me makes less sense than every recruiter is an NSO scout, right? Because you're the ones, the recruiters are the ones that have the most cross-section of contact with that range of skill and talent out there, and then can funnel that talent to the right place to be developed into the future special operator.
And then, can we address the policy requiring a parenting agreement for applicants under 18 with divorced parents? Some states don't require a parenting agreement, and MEPS wants the parents to go back to court to get one for their applicant that is 17.
Yeah, I'm working to address that. Yes. But what I'd like to get to is sometimes we're just constrained by the law, right? So we're not going to break the law. But whatever I can do to remove the legal constraint on the recruiter, that's what I desire to get to. Okay, anything else?
I've gone through a lot of the chats.
Yeah, anybody here? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good morning. NC2 Phillips out of Intag, Carolina. My question is for due to the priority of NSW or NSO, is there any way that we can match the bonus to Nuke at 75, or is there a reason that it's capped off at 50?
Yes, I can tell you there's a reason. Let me say, well, then I'll say, no, we're not going to match, because Naval Reactors has made it very clear that the Nuke bonus will always be the #1 bonus, and I don't think we're ever going to get past that. I think it's probable in the near future the Nuke bonus will come down. The NSO bonus and it'll get closer, but it'll never be equal to that. And while the ASVAB or AFQT scores are similar for the two, the person is not the same, right? Anyway, I get what you're saying. Philosophically, it makes sense. We're just not going to get there. Yeah. Nuke is always the primacy, have primacy. That's really the value proposition of a 4-star owning everything from beginning to end of the personnel world, right? Okay. What else?
Follow-up question for the billet-based advancement. How is it going to work for the upcoming chief results? Will we have to wait until we select orders and Obliser for 36 months to advance?
I think, CMC, make sure you correct me if I'm wrong here. CMC, are you tracking that question?
Say that one more time.
Yeah, so for the upcoming chief results, will we have to wait until or will we have to wait to select orders and Obliser for 36 months to advance?
That's what I was working on. So I got a couple of things here, and I have talked to the class. So I will reiterate, ARA is absolutely a possibility. I addressed it with the NDOC class and the CRF Academy, because that's much easier within Navy recruiting and possibility to have an empty chief billet. So harder for the 803R recruiter. Okay. However, I've reached out for an update because due to the nature of recruiting and the ramp up to get through qualifications and productive in recruiting, NETSI is looking at an ETP for Navy recruiting, but I don't have a way forward or what that exactly looks like. My guess is if it gets looked at and entertained, that it will require an Obliserve, and
Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, any
So-
advancement in this system is going to require the Obliserve for the 3 years.
But I
at
don't
the
have an
rank.
answer back yet on the status of that ETP.
Yeah, but there's also the frocking is expected with a traditional chief season, correct?
Correct.
So advancement, yes. Getting paid for the advancement, or frocking, yes. Advancement, that's the key question. So we're working on that. So we are kind of on the tattered edge of this policy, which is aimed at the big Navy, and we're working to try to make it less complicated within recruiting, to continue to have that sense that if you come to recruiting, one of the benefits is you advance faster. That's the plan. I know we're not quite there. I'm getting the look from the chief. I know. I'm trying. Okay. What else? Anything else in the room? Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. NC2 Nichols from Intake San Antonio. So the real ID thing, with the upcoming school year, the 11S's, they usually can join with a school ID. With the real ID, are they not going to be able to join until they get it? Or
No.
will they be able to go out the school year and try to get it while they're still in school?
Yeah. So Real ID is not an impact on joining the service, to my knowledge, unless Yeah.
Some they
So,
don't.
so the real ID issue is transport to boot camp. And so we've worked with the TSA that military orders and a non-real ID will get you on the plane. And so real ID, while all Americans should be seeking to get a real ID because it's just going to be a pain in the butt not to have one, should not be an impediment to recruiting at all. And if it is, please feed that back. If your NLO is requiring it, then that's not coming from us, and we need to kind of make sure that gets that we stop doing that, right? We reduce friction for recruiters. This is similar to a lot of other legal constraints where, yeah, they'll eventually need to have it, but do we really want to make that a condition for contracting, right? Did that help? Okay. Other questions are, yeah, right here.
Hey, sir.
See, it's time for me to end. That's what that alarm was. Yeah.
NC1 Harvey heading to INTAG PNW. With the stopping of a session of transgender sailors or applicants, in recent years, the military has paid for some of their operations and their surgeries or things for that. One of the perks and benefits of naval service is elective surgeries or the opportunity for elective surgeries. Is there any conversation at the top for allowing specifically female members of the military to be fully funded for infertility processes such as IVF, IUI, things like that?
Yeah, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge. The transgender surgery paying for that has stopped. But you ask a good question. I just don't have enough knowledge of. I don't know if that's being discussed or not. Let's make sure we write that down so we can take that back. I'll have to take a look up
Thank you.
on that. All right, there was a question over here. Yeah. And I think this will probably be the last one, I think, right?
Eamon Diaz, going to NTAG ORV. Quick question about nukes who weren't able to or weren't afforded the opportunity to qualify watch supervisor, so we can make chief and stuff like that. Will we be afforded that opportunity sometime within our time here? Because some people I know their careers are kind of stunted because they made first, weren't afforded to or weren't able to qualify watch supervisor, and now they're just here and they can't.
Yeah, because you
advance.
can't make chief without watch supervisor,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, let me take that on board because we had that question, and I think there's some work going on. Are you tracking that?
See a suggestion box?
Yeah. Let me get back to the Recruiting Nation on that one. I've got my nuke team working with N133, which is the community management shop for nukes, on that question because you're not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of cases where somebody was on a ship in the shipyard and had to do the thing and they never got to ride. Mm-hmm. All of that, not lost on me. And every time we it's like BBA in a lot of ways. Anytime we put constraints on advancement to do a certain thing, when you apply it to recruiting, it's hard. If it's a matter of, hey, for a nuke that's, we can set up an opportunity for a set time to go out and get the practical factors to finish, then I'm certainly not opposed to that. I just got to get through what is the system willing to allow.
Okay. All right,
Yep.
thank you, sir.
Okay, I think that's about all the time that I have, but I really want to say thanks to Recruiting Nation, thanks to the team here in the room. It's always great to come down to Nauru to engage with all of you, hear the great questions, and have that conversation. I know that not every question gets answered the way that you hoped it would get answered, but my intent is to continue to be as transparent as I can possibly be. I'll tell you what I know, what I don't know, and what I'm working on. But in the end, all that's good in recruiting, all the accolades that you hear, that we read about, the things that are being done, it's the concerted, combined effort of 6,000 people getting after it. It's the line recruiter, in their govy on a, late on a Wednesday afternoon, following up with that person that's still indecisive. It's all of that combining together that put us in this position that when you look at any 12-month period over the course of this year, so 12 months prior to, as you look back from about the 1st of April back and then kind of keep rolling that forward, the rate at which we are recruiting is higher than at any time since the early 2000s. And that rate of recruiting in the early 2000s was by 1,500 more recruiters. So the production per recruiter, I don't think we can find a time in our all-volunteer force history that it's ever been higher. So thank you from me to you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for recruiting well, and thank you for leading well. And I wish you all the best. All right.
An update, sir. The answer is yes on there's no limit to MAP ratings.
Okay.
This year.
Yeah, so we'll put more out, but the other path for you is MAP. So we'll get after it. So it's per the CMC. So I'm going to hang my hat on that.
I was trying to get answers.
Yeah, that's good. It's good news. As I'm getting off the stage, there's good news. So there's an opportunity. That doesn't help the chief, and we'll get after it. We'll get after it, Chief. I appreciate you being part of recruiting. Where are you headed? NTAG Philly. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's a great team. I think you're. Is that where you're from? I'm from New York. Okay, so Philly's like not good then. You got to start rooting for the Philadelphia team. Oh, no matter how good they are, right? Okay, it's good. We'll get after it. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. All right, please carry on.